Thanks for coming, guys. I'm going to talk about the features of Sitecore Stream and XM Cloud and kind of what happened to them since SitecoreAI launched. Because obviously SitecoreAI launched, everything kind of changed. So yeah, I'm going to try to get through these slides in like 15 minutes. I think my record is 17, so I'm going to try to beat that today. So yeah, before we start, a bit about myself. My name's Rob. I'm a DXP optimization consultant from Remarkable here in London, so we're just down the road. I've been working on Sitecore projects for about 8 years, and you'll generally find me working with kind of client enablement, training, making sure the clients get the most out of the platforms that they and the tools that they have. I'm normally working on personalization, content projects, any new tools, anything like that. So trying to keep on top of all that stuff. And I've been a Sitecore strategy MVP for 5 years. So yeah, for a bit of context, kind of cast your mind back to Symposium 2024 and the launch of Sitecore Stream. So this is obviously Sitecore's big AI play to date. Stream is basically a tool that controlled a bunch of the AI enabling features like the brand kits and the assistant, and it could be connected to most of the kind of main Sitecore tools in the ecosystem. So that was October 2024, but it wouldn't be until kind of Q1 2025, probably the end of Q1 2025, before partners and some of the kind of early adopter customers got their hands on it. And it was well into this kind of summer. And you'd have to imagine by the autumn until a lot of the customers really started playing around with it. So they're only really starting to get their hands dirty with it, with Sitecore Stream. And then along comes Symposium 2025 last November. And the launch of SitecoreAI, which was about making a lot of these AI tools more baked into the system, about giving every organization access to a base level of the expanded suite of tools. So it's a pretty big shakeup, and it basically meant that Stream as it stood kind of ceased to exist. If you're on XM Cloud, at least. If you're on XP, you still needed the standalone Stream tool, but if you're on XM Cloud, you basically didn't need to use Stream standalone anymore. So this talk is really for those XM Cloud users who are starting to dip their toes into Sitecore Stream before the big SitecoreAI announcement, and then might have got a bit overwhelmed by it all, or kind of just didn't know where they stood. So the lay of the land pre-Symposium 2025, there's obviously all the XM Cloud tools, so page builder, content editor, media library, and the tools, they had some AI features baked into them, and there was Stream as well, with tools like the brand kits and the assistant, and the briefs and campaigns as well. And then along comes Symposium 2025, and not only does XM Cloud and Stream kind of get subsumed into SitecoreAI with a whole bunch of these extra features, but there's a whole new section as well called the Agentic Studio, which I'm sure you've all heard of, and that manages the agents and the support structure around them. So post-Symposium 2025, we have a bunch of existing tools, many of which are now in new places and have new features. And we also have a whole bunch of new features to play around with in the form of agents, agent flows, signals, and spaces. So that's what I'm going to take you through today. So first we'll look at the features that were previously in Sitecore Stream, where are they now and what's new with them. So first up we have the My Day tab, which is where you landed on when you first opened the Stream app. Then it was a default screen that kind of gave you an overview of any of the tools or any of the tasks and projects that you were involved in. And if you didn't use the task and projects features, this was kind of almost redundant. So now it's a new tab called Strategy in SitecoreAI. It's the overview section and strategy section. It obviously tells you what the tools are for. All these tools are for strategy. And there's a lot more stuff in here now, like shortcuts to things like agents, the flows, and the chat app on the top. The pin sites, insights, plus all the stuff that was already there. So it's a much more useful jumping off point than the Stream kind of overview feature was. Then we have projects from Stream, which lists all the projects that are created across your organization. This has been renamed to campaigns, which is under the strategy tab too. So you can set up campaigns for things like product launches, website updates, seasonal promotions, digital ad campaigns, and things like that to keep track of them as they progress. Other than the name change, the section hasn't changed too much or had some bits added to it. But now you can turn briefs directly into campaigns. And speaking of briefs, we have a new dedicated section for briefs that we didn't have before in Stream. And this is where the teams create and manage briefs for campaigns. And it's great to have this as like a broken out section. Then we have the brand assistant, which is the chat feature where you can enter prompts to complete brand related tasks like brainstorming or creating campaign briefs, which lets you create or request more specifically structured output. And this is now under the strategy and assistant section. And since the upgrade to SitecoreAI, there's been a bunch of new features added here. So this is one of the sections that has had a lot of kind of love given to it over the last few months. So we have a dedicated web search tool to go with the brainstorming and the brief tools. And there's a lot more tools coming as well. So this is a section that's going to have a lot more things added to it as we go along. There's a PDF file upload support, so you can upload PDFs so that your prompt can reference them. And there's configurable writing styles and information sources, so you can change the style or the source depending on which tool you use. Then onto the brand kits. So this is where you go to upload your training documentation and manage the information that the system has on your brand. It used to be its own section in Stream. Now it's a tab under the design section, so not under strategy like the other stuff. Like before, you can have multiple brand kits in the same instance. The brand kits are basically made of two parts. There's the brand knowledge section, which is where you upload your documents. It's this kind of pool of knowledge that the co-pilots can reference. Then we have the sections tab, which is it's things that the system deems really important to know about your brand. So things like tone of voice, brand history, things like that. And what that does is it scans all the documents that you upload, and it puts the stuff relevant into each of these sections, so it can easily reference them. So the fundamental of the brand kit tool hasn't really changed much, but there's been a couple of little features added. One is a marketer MCP tool for brief creation that knows which brand kit to reference based on your request. So that's nice. Other than that, nothing major, but it's a really important part of the tool as a whole. And then we have, last but not least, in Stream we had an admin tab where you could basically link XP or XM Cloud to it. Now that it's baked into SitecoreAI, you obviously don't need this anymore. So that's another benefit now that it's all part of the same ecosystem without having to connect everything up. It's all there. Although there's a couple of caveats, you still need to enable Stream in the first place. If you had XM Cloud and which got updated to SitecoreAI to actually get access to all the features, you do need to enable Stream, which is basically a tick box, like a terms and conditions thing that you just have to agree to. If it's a new project, it should already be enabled, if you get me. Also, yeah, if you're still on XP, you'll still need to use Stream as a standalone app as well. So this is only for XM Cloud. So that's Stream, and where all the moving parts now live in SitecoreAI. So onto XM Cloud. What's changed and what's new since SitecoreAI? So there is a handy table in the Sitecore documentation that covers what's changed and how. So there's the portfolio site section, which is now channels. There's the design library, which had components and forms. Now it's got a bit more detailed stuff around the component builder and design studio, which I'll touch on in a second. We still have the forms. We also have the brand kit. That's where that lives. And the content section is kind of the same. It's the way of reaching content editor, media library, explorer. That's kind of the same. And we have the planning and project sections, which changes to strategy and campaigns. We have the analytics, which has changed to performance, and that's got a lot more extra stuff in it, which I'll touch on in a bit. And we have settings, which is the same, and the Agentic Studio, which is the new section that I'll touch on briefly at the end. If we look at XM Cloud Page Builder, the kind of main tool around that, it's mainly where people go to build web pages. I'm sure most people are familiar with Page Builder. And when you get into Page Builder and work with an actual page, you're going to see this Optimize Content button pop up in the components you're working with. So it's this little star icon. You're going to see that a lot of places. You can optimize content with a single line text or multi-line text or rich text, and you can optimize at the component level or the individual field level. So some components will obviously have multiple fields. And it just depends on where you click the little icon, whether it's in the component or the field. And you can do one of two things. You can enter a free text prompt in the box. You can just say, hey, do the XYZ with this text, or there's a bunch of available options there that you can list, kind of pre-built prompts that you can change the tone. You can make the content longer or shorter, summarize it or brandify it. If you've got a brand kit linked to it, you can pass it through that and it'll make it more like your brand. And you can do this wherever there are components with text throughout your SitecoreAI site. Hopefully there'll be an image thing coming soon. That's what I'm hoping. But yeah, so that's the kind of lay of the land in Page Builder and how you access stuff. Again, the kind of fundamentals of it are the same, but we're seeing new little features added here and there. There's one really nice feature added in Page Builder over the last few weeks, actually. A lot of this stuff is kind of coming thick and fast, so you're going to really have to keep an eye on all the updates and the change logs to see all this stuff. So one of the new features in Page Builder, which is really nice, it's you can optimize content. What it'll do is it'll suggest the most appropriate content available for link and list field types. So that's stuff like drop lists, tree lists, multi-lists, tags, things like that. And this helps you really quickly identify the most relevant item options available for your component fields. So for example, this could be that you have to tag up a page. You might have a new page that's related to a product or an event or anything. You might have absolutely loads of available tags. One of our clients has over 1,000 product tags, for example, which is a nightmare of trying to dig through all them and pick the right ones. So this feature suggests tags that are relevant to that page by going into the page content section, and it'll suggest relevant tags, and you can just apply it with a single click. So that's really something that is going to save a lot of time, especially if you've got loads of loads of tags or list items or anything like that. And yeah, that it's not only it saves time, but it makes it more likely that your pages are being tagged up correctly and things like that. Okie dokie. So then we have Design Studio. So one really nice new feature. One really nice new feature in the Design Studio is the ability to create a new component variants based on a natural language prompt. So that you can select a component and where the little AI star is. So it's the same thing, the little AI star. You simply add a prompt like, create a variant of this component with a red background, or move the text above the image, or whatever it is. And then you can click submit, and after a minute or so, it'll spit out a new variant, which you can then save. Here we go. Oh no, we'll go back. So you can then save the variant, and there's also some quick action prompts as well that can help you, make it more likely that your prompt is actually accurate and produces something of note. So that's a really nice feature as well. That GIF didn't really do it justice, but it lets you basically create a whole bunch of variants without having to get the development team involved. Then we have the performance section, touched on before. This is an expanded version of the old analytics in XM Cloud. And includes everything from sites, forms, A/B tests. Now all that's in one place. And coming soon, things like search experiences, which is the kind of base level version of Sitecore Search, and events and traffic as well. So these are all new sections to this performance part that's coming soon, and it's a much more consistent and valuable place for information than it was originally. So that, onto the Agentic Studio. This is where you can manage agents and agent flows. It's also where you can access Spaces, the collaborative tool, and the Signals Trends tool as well. So when you click into the Agentic tab in the menu, you end up on an overview page like this. This page shows you some of the featured agents, featured flows, the latest signals. You can directly use agents in the prompt box here as well by selecting the agent from the drop-down menu and typing in your prompt. So this page is basically like a jumping off point for any of the agentic features, but it's a nice little place to kind of keep track of everything. Then we have the chat section on the left is where you can access the chat feature, which is the conversational AI interface for using the agentic tools. You can do things like ask it questions, trigger tasks as well. You can access some of the built-in tools and features to help with whatever you want your chat to do. And this is another area that's had a bunch of updates as well. So you can see these in the change logs. You can select an agent you wanted to help with your request, and you can select specific tools or skills, which are reusable instructions. You can add context, so you can choose a specific brand kit or an artifact, which is something you've created before in the system so that it can reference it. You can add context. Yes, you can add context. You can add. You can also reference a specific item. So this is a new thing. So you can point to an item in your CMS, like a page or a component, and reference that. And you can also do things like attach a file, use voice input, and select the type of model that you want for processing. So do you want to optimize for speed or expertise or whatever it is? When you submit a prompt, it opens up a space in the Spaces section, which we don't have time to kind of touch on too much, but this is where all that stuff lives, all the outputs live, so that you can collaborate and continue to work on it, and you can keep track of it. And you can open this chat interface anywhere in SitecoreAI where you see this little icon. So the little icon at the top in blue, where the star is, that'll open up the chat feature wherever you are. So it's kind of handy to use. So that's the chat. Then onto the agents. I think I've only got like 2 minutes left. Yeah, so I'll try to get through this. So the agent section is where you can access the pre-built agents, agents created by you, agents shared with you. There are a bunch of pre-built ones that are listed here that I don't have time to talk about. You can click on one, give it a name and a prompt, a context, anything like that. You can reference brand kits, files, anything you think is going to give it a better output. And then you can create, again, it puts it into a space where you can run it. There's been a load of updates around here that Rue touched on yesterday in the panel around, just all the stuff in the agentic space. There's been monthly updates where there's 15 or 20 updates every month. So this is somewhere where you should really check the change logs because they're coming in thick and fast. So that's the pre-built agents. Also, you can create an agent. So there's a standard agent or a workflow agent. So the standard one is kind of flexible, conversational type of custom agent. The workflow agent is for more kind of structured, repeatable, multi-step execution stuff. And you can create a standard agent, but you just give it a name and description, and you can select which tools you want it to reference and use when generating. And you can select which agent API capabilities you want it to use, context as well. I have to wrap this up. So you have to select the context, brand kit, documentation. There's a Sitecore documentation MCP and the marketer MCP as well. So that it's getting expanded all the time. That's custom agents and the pre-built agents. Again, this is a talk that it could go on for all day, but I kind of have to wrap it up now. So thank you to the sponsors and all that. So yeah, good guys. Sorry for overrunning a bit. Brilliant.